that money flow. Keep the shiny side up wherever we go. Set your own schedule, master of the road. Hauling Freedom's cargo, lightening up your load. Tips and tricks for truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in it every mile. Hauling gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile. Hauling gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane. Driven truck, yeah, we ease the strain. Keep your eyes on that line from sunrise to moonshine. Owner operators, this show's for you. Tune in, get tips, and roll on through. From diesel fumes to mountain views, we'll guide your way. Hauling grit and glory every single day. On the rubber, feel the freedom in every bend. Driven trucking, your best highway friends. Staying driven hard in it every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling 60 truckers, yeah, we're helping you from dawn till dusk. We'll see it through. Staying driven hard in every mile. Hunting gears and wearing a smile. From hustling city streets to the country lane. Driven trucking, we ease the strain.
Good morning and happy Friday to everybody. If you're tuning in, if you got sent over from the other video, the negotiation video, welcome. I appreciate it. This is what I do during the week, and just hang tight. If you are catching this on the replay, likely if you came over from the video, open up the comment section. In the top comment, the pinned comments, I will have a timestamp to when the information actually starts. We've got a little bit of an intro to let people filter in. So good morning, everybody. Hope everything's going well. I hope you already have a weekend load booked. I'm really excited about the video that I just talked about that's coming out. It's already filmed and it's already edited and everything. Just waiting on approval for something. And then we're going to release it. It's probably one of the most valuable negotiating videos that I've put out, bar none. Yeah, because I went in depth. I went in a lot more depth than what I wanted to. But well, just check it out if you want to, or don't. I mean, whatever, it's up to you. But if you're here and I appreciate you, hit that like button. In return, we're going to do a dad joke of the day. It's always nice to start off with a little chuckle, right? What did the evil chicken lay? Deviled eggs. Not funny today. That's okay, because they're not all funny. They're dad jokes, right? So let's see here. Marty's asking, am I still a truck driver? No, sir, I'm not. I got off the road. It's been a little bit over 2 years since I sold my trailer. I've done a plethora of things, but I've got the time, I've got the availability, and I'm able to study these markets and put these out consistently. So I've decided this is the best way for me to help the trucking industry by doing this and continuing and providing value for free. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button and tune in. And what I do every day, I don't know if you're familiar, but I review the trucking markets and because I understand how it is being out there. Um, Being out there for 10 years, I get it, how tiring it is and all the crappy food and all that good stuff. So if I can take one thing off of owner operators' plates by analyzing the trucking market daily, well, I'm going to do it. So, and DAT was kind enough to partner up with me and allow me access to the load boards despite not having an MC. So that's what I'm doing now, Marty. I am no longer a truck driver. I would continue teaching new truck drivers. It's not like my knowledge has disappeared or anything, but I understand the industry and I understand that truck drivers don't really want to learn from a guy who's no longer a truck driver anymore. So, I decided to not teach new truck drivers. I'm not going to take down any of those old videos or anything. I'm still going to leave them up. They're still going to be available. But yeah, the channel has switched to this now. So thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to dive right in because I'm going to fly through this today. And yeah, because I'm sure a lot of people are coming over from that video that I talked about. So let's get right to it. So I like to start off with the weather because it's important, right? It's important to know what you're headed into. So I just do a brief overview of the weather, and I personally use the weatherstreet.com website. I don't really recommend it. It's not it's not the greatest for mobile. It's great for my presentation here and gives me a quick overview. We've got a system, looks like it's coming in from the northwest that we talked about yesterday. We got what's hanging out down there in the southeast that we know is going to kind of grow. I believe it's going to grow. The one, the one in the Great Lakes area. So you've got a system in the Great Lakes area. You got one down there in the southeast on the coast, and then you've got one pushing in on the northwest. So if you're in those areas, keep an eye on it. If you're not in those areas, still keep an eye on it because weather's crazy and it pops up no matter what. So as we scroll forward a couple of days, actually what winds up happening, it looks like something moves in that Great Lake area. So that's kind of what happens. And then it seems like the what's on the southeast coast is just really not doing much. So yep, that's going to be the quick weather update for today. Y'all stay safe. Next, I'd like to look at the national load counts. Why do I do this? So this gives us a nice barometer of what's going on a state level. It allows us to kind of analyze loads in versus loads out. And it gives us a general idea of what's going on. In a few minutes, I'm going to dive into the actual markets. A great example of this would be California. Just because California is in a good situation load-wise doesn't mean that you want to go anywhere in California. Most likely, you're going to want to go to the Los Angeles area. That's almost always where the freight's going to be at. But we're going to take a deeper dive into that in a little bit. But this allows us to just have a better understanding kind of overall. We always skip Alaska, by the way. Alabama, 591 loads in to 214 loads out. That's getting worse. Arkansas, 264 loads in to 229 loads out. That's actually made a dip this week as well. Arizona, 555 trucks headed that way, 309 loads out. That's actually a little bit of a bump in freight, but it's still Arizona, so just grab what you can to get out of there. California, 1,541 loads in, 3,225 loads out. So you're in an excellent situation to negotiate for a better rate, right? I guess Californians don't like to work the weekends, but the freight's still got to move. So you've got some negotiating power over there in California for certain. That's way up. That's way up for this week. That's way up just in general. So you've got negotiating power over there. And if you catch that video, that's hopefully releasing today, it should be. I'm going to help you negotiate with these guys because I keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again. These guys won't negotiate with me. These guys won't negotiate with me. Well, the video is going to give you some tips and some tricks and some ways to handle these brokers to make more money, right? Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's just period. It's just about making money. So catch that video. Even if you're a seasoned negotiator, I guarantee you there's some tips in there for you as well. Colorado, 407 loads in to 176 loads out. That's a little bit up as far as loads in and a little bit down, I think, and loads out for the week. Connecticut, 121 loads in, 162 loads out. Interesting. DC's got some freight. They've got 7 loads that are moving. Delaware, 37 loads in, 28 loads out. Florida, 1,927 loads in, 538 loads out. That's a small increase in loads out, but it's such a minute number compared to how many trucks are headed that way. Just avoid Florida like the plague, right? Georgia, 2,005 trucks headed that way, 554 loads out. Hopefully, a lot of those are just going home. And if you are headed that way, you're not going to get stuck for the weekend. But that's not great. Iowa, 273 loads in, 297 loads out. So it slipped a little bit, despite volume being up just a hair. You're not going to have a ton of negotiating power in Iowa to grab you that weekend load. Idaho, 93 loads in, 216 loads out. Seems like the Northwest trend is continuing. We'll know here in a little bit, but that's in great shape. Illinois, 846 loads in, 1,592 loads out. So that has remained strong. The freight has not dipped. It has remained steady. Even though we had an increase in trucks headed that way, I believe that was yesterday. So you're in a great spot in Illinois to catch you that weekend load. They're likely going to be posted on the boards for higher, a better rate. You may not have a ton of negotiating power, but you definitely always got to ask and try. Indiana, 636 loads in, 1,161 loads out. That's good shape for Indiana. Indiana has been great all week. Kansas, 257 loads in to 211 loads out. Well, that's a bit of a dip. So if you're headed that way, just get out of there. Just grab what you can. Kentucky, 452 loads in, 533 loads out. So Kentucky has remained strong all week. Love to see it. That's going to be that should continue. That trend should continue the later we get into quarter four, because a lot of the people in just in general, really in the entirety of the Midwest, they're going to be running a lot of mail freight, right? They're going to be doing the FedExes, they're going to be doing the UPSs and the Amazon runs. So you will see an increase. May not see an increase in volume, but you will see an increase in pricing. That's just the way that it is. Louisiana, 327 loads in to 285 loads out. That's one of those states it's just best to avoid. Massachusetts, 227 loads in to 264 loads out. So it still remains strong in the Northeast, but it's one of the few states that's remained strong. So that's good shape. Maryland, 239 loads in, 302 loads out. So that's a nice bump. We got an increase in production over there. So Maryland's in a good spot. Maybe not a ton of negotiating going on over there, but it's in a good spot. You should get a decent rate. Maine, 67 loads in to 70 loads out. So right about average. Michigan, 417 loads in, 708 loads out. We're going to also cover Minnesota real quick. 261 loads in, 493 loads out. So if you've been watching the stream for a couple of weeks, you know that the Great Lakes states, the northern states, are in great shape. They're in great shape towards the end of the week, and you've got negotiating power there. There's not a ton of trucks there. There's plenty of freight there. That's a great spot to make some good money through the weekend. And like I said, if you've been watching for a couple of weeks, you've likely positioned your truck up there for those runs, or you've headed to the dreaded Northwest, hopefully before it gets too white up there, too snowy, and you're making good money. That's the whole point of this. Missouri, 503 loads in, 536 loads out. So decent shape for Missouri. We'll look to see which markets has that freight, but I already know which ones. But that's okay. I won't spoil it if you're new. Mississippi, 235 loads in to 280 loads out. So that's an increase for Mississippi. Actually, Mississippi's been the strongest southern state as of recently. So it's nice to see that these trends are continuing. You'll see here in a minute, we're going to take a brief look at the trend lines. It's not generally something I like to go over on a Friday, and you'll know why here in a second. But this is why we're seeing increases in rates. Montana, 67 loads in, 73 loads out. North Carolina, really bad shape. 1,543 loads in to 528 loads out. That's just rough. That whole Atlanta, just kind of Atlanta, South Carolina, North Carolina, just really has not been great for vans the past few months. North Dakota, 68 loads in, 174 loads out. So excellent spot to negotiate, get a better rate, make all that money through the weekend. Nebraska, 192 loads in to 132 loads out. That's normal. New Hampshire, 69 loads in to 44 loads out. Jersey, 455 loads headed that way to 927 loads out. So a little bit. Actually, the production has just kind of remained the same. This is pretty typical of Jersey. They fall off towards the end of the week, but there's not a ton of trucks headed that way. But there's a lot of people that live there, so you're not going to have, despite the much better demand than supply, you're still not going to have a ton of negotiating power there, unfortunately. But always try. But it's one of those states that you really, if you're there and you're not home, don't get stuck there. New Mexico, 156 loads in to 86 loads out, so that's way down. That's also why I said don't trust New Mexico. At one day earlier this week, they were way above average, and that was just an anomaly. So it's returned to its normal don't go there truck driver state. Nevada, 199 loads in, 335 loads out. So Nevada has remained strong, which is good. New York, 513 loads in to 854 loads out. Same story as Jersey. Ohio, 972 loads in, 1,498 loads out. So you definitely still have negotiating power there in Ohio. Going through the weekend, it's kind of the same story as Jersey. It's one of those states you can definitely try to negotiate. Sometimes you're able to bump that rate. Sometimes you're not. It's one of those. Usually, it's posted on the load board for a decent rate, but it's great for freight. Like it's great to head that way and get out. Usually, especially when it's been strong, and it's been strong all week. Oklahoma, 373 loads in to 102 loads out. Eesh. Oregon, 147 loads in to 487 loads out. So the Northwest will still remain strong because I'm sure Washington's still fine. So the Northwest is a great spot to make some good money. Pennsylvania, 1,013 loads in to 1,460 loads out. That's pretty good. That's basically about average for PA, but we're well above that 50-50 mark, so that's solid. Rhode Island, 24 loads in to 41 loads out. South Carolina, 749 loads in to 374 loads out. So they've kind of been getting wrecked. South Carolina is usually the strongest state for having. You're never going to have negotiating power down there, but it's usually close to that 50-50 mark. It's just best to avoid that for now. 52 loads in for South Dakota, 83 loads out. Apologies. Yes, I will get to your question here in a minute, Marty. Let's see here. Where was I at? Tennessee, South Dakota, 52 loads in to 83 loads out. I think I said that. Tennessee, 966 loads in to 434 loads out. So that's been wrecked. That's terrible. It never hit that 50-50 mark, but it is definitely a big fall off in the output for the loads out. And actually it's an increase in loads in. So Tennessee, terrible spot. If you're headed that way, if you're trying to book a load today, just get what you can, and get the heck out of there because it's not a great market. It's not going to be great on Monday, unfortunately, or even through the weekend. So that's a state that you do not want to get stuck in. And hopefully you're in the Memphis area if you are, because that's generally where the freight's at. Texas, 3,230 loads in to 1,780 loads out. Texas just, man, it's gross. Rates are awful, and that's why, because this entire market is just supply and demand. It's, pretty simple. But that Texas is just You don't get paid to leave Texas, unfortunately. You just got to get out. Utah, 181 loads in, 261 loads out. North, it's one of the, I don't know, I would consider that kind of Northwest, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but okay. But it's never a state that you're going to get paid a ton of money on, or you're going to negotiate some wonderful rate coming out of there. Vermont, 16 loads in, 26 loads out. Washington, 237 loads in to 632 loads out. So yeah, boom, right there. Northwest has been king all week. I would say even more so than the Great Lakes states. So you've got a lot of negotiating power up there. If you are up there, if you're running up there, you make sure you are negotiating. Make sure you are negotiating. Okay. Check out my video if you're having issue with these brokers bumping for you. Okay. I promise you, it's a skill. It's not that they won't bump, it's a skill. Wisconsin, 418 loads in to 997 loads out. So this is why I recommend the Great Lakes states, especially if you don't want to touch the Northwest, which, hey, I don't blame you. But there's been a push here lately, and this is a pattern. This is not something that's going to stay this way, you know, for forever, let's say. It's just a pattern that's been happening here. So that the end of the week, like Wednesday to Friday, very much so more Thursday and Friday, but occasionally Wednesday too, you're seeing an increase in production up there. And so if you can position yourself in those Great Lakes states, the Minnesota, the Wisconsin, and the Michigan, then you're able to negotiate a better rate, and the rates are just going to be posted better because brokers see exactly what I'm going over. They look at all these numbers too. They're well aware of the markets, and quite frankly, they're going to be more aware than you, or maybe not me because I've studied this every day, but they're going to be more aware than you are. They understand what's going on way more in depth, so they're always going to have the upper hand, unfortunately. The best thing that you can do is arm yourself with the same knowledge that they have. That way you can have that educated conversation with them. And when they run across an educated truck driver, not only do they want to help you out? Maybe not all brokers, but some of them do. But if you come across as an educated truck driver, if you're able to talk their lingo, they're going to know that you take care of business, that you handle business, and they're going to know that that load is going to be in good shape, in good hands. So another reason to do it. West Virginia, 97 loads in to the dreaded question mark, 80 loads out. And then Wyoming, 44 loads in to 56 loads out. Marty, to answer your question, I will get to it after I get through the trucking market update, but I'll be happy to go back to that. And if you're wondering, he asked, can you re-explain when the rates are good about driving slower? Absolutely. And I'll cover that after this. So if you're curious, stick around. Jerome, good morning. Next, we're going to look at the trend lines. Now, I do this more in depth on Mondays because as we get to the end of the week, these are weekly snapshot numbers, as you can see across. You may not be, no, yeah, you can see it across the top of the screen. You're not going to be able to, excuse me, they don't change throughout the week. I apologize. I was getting a call. So there's no reason to really go in depth this late, but we're going to cover it because there's going to be a lot of new people that are watching this video coming over from the other one. So just real quick, I will look at the van load to truck ratio. So this first number, it's up 21.6%, right? That's great. But we're looking at last week as compared to the week prior to that. So it's just kind of giving you a direction of, or an idea of which way the market is moving, right? And this increase in volume here, if you've been watching the channel, this is, I've been calling this out just because I've been reading the load board, right? It's not like if you do this every day and you get this knowledge, like it's not magic. It's nothing special. It's just literally doing this every day and recognizing patterns. You can look at from year over year, from September of this year to September of last year, we're down about 10%. Now that sounds bad, right? But that was worse before. So, it can't just look at these numbers and get an idea. You have to be able to compare to, what it's been doing. Now, ultimately, this is the number that you want to pay attention to because, this month or last month compared to prior years September is going to be really the only one that matters. But it's also, you need to look at the entire trend of the market. So you have to look at all these different things to understand what's going on. It gives you an idea of the van spot rates. So from last week to the week prior, we're up 1%. Hey, anything positive, anything in that positive is a good thing. And then they're back to where they were because this was a negative number, September this year compared to September of last year. So moving in the right direction. Hang in there, guys. It's going to get better from what the numbers are telling me. Okay. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know that, but from what the numbers are telling me, it's going to get better. Flatbeds, it's up 10.8%. So they've been making all the money the past few months. And then September of this year compared to September last year, this is the load to truck ratio. It's up almost 30% at 28.2%. That's solid. The spot rates, though, are only up 0.4%. So that's a bit of a shock. This should be way higher considering the amount of volume that's there. They just need to negotiate better. From September of this year to September of last year, it's up 3.6%. And then poor reefer. But we've got a nice boost today, or compared to this last week compared to the week before. It's their loads are up 17.2%. But September of this year to September of last year, it's down 1.9%. So, and then the rates are up on the weeks, plus 2.2%, but month to month, it's down 2.5%. This is, I like to go over this as well really quickly. This gives you an idea of what all the freight is doing as far as what the rate is, right? So the vans in this month, as compared to September, they're up 5 pennies to $2.02 per mile on average. So we are going past even what August had for the month of August. For flatbed, it's up from last month 4 cents. Same thing. We've exceeded August's price. And then poor reefer, it's down a penny from last month to $2.36 a mile. But I mean, don't feel too bad for them, right? It's still at $2.36 a mile. Keep in mind, they are paying fuel on that reefer, so bit of a bummer. The weekly brief, I'm gonna add this, but I'm only gonna add this on Mondays. So I'm gonna start reading this on Mondays as well, but I'm not gonna read that today. And then lastly, the fuel prices. This gives you just an idea of what fuel's doing. It's stayed the same. Across the nation is $3.54 on average. Now we're going to look at the heat map. So this heat map, red and orange are good. Dark blue is really bad. Light blue is not as bad, but it's still bad. And then yellow is just average for the market, right? So like I was alluding to earlier, California is in really good shape right now. So that's why we don't see any blue, which is a bit of a surprise. But all the freight is down there in the Los Angeles area. This is like seeing the Sacramento area being average, and even this Fresno area. Sometimes this Fresno area is red, but it's been blue all week long. So because you know that it's been blue all week long, you shouldn't be going there. You're not going to have a bunch of negotiating power. What that means is that the loads that are posted are new. So they're not going to be as willing to move on newer freight that, like they just got an order in for today, unless it's a hot load, right? So, that's why it's very important to do this on a consistent basis. You can't just wake up, one day and look at this, do everything that I just did and then have that knowledge for the day and then not do it for 2 weeks and then do it again and think that you're going to be good. This is something that you have to do consistently all the time, and you got to stay on top of it because the market changes weekly, but the market changes every day. And one market can be hot one day, and then it can be not the next day. I mean, it's crazy, but it's something that you as you do this more and more and more, or even hear me talk about this more and more and more, you're going to recognize patterns, and then you're going to be able to position your truck better, and you're inevitably going to be making more money. Are you going to be making the money that you want to make? I don't know. Maybe not. But That's going to be dictated by the overall market. I'm not saying that I'm going to make you rich. I'm just saying you should make the most money of what you have that's available to you. That's the goal, right? And on top of that, I do want to put in a little bit caveat. You need to be an OTR driver, right? This isn't going to work for regional or local. Um, yeah, but I mean that just kind of goes without saying, I guess. I don't know why I felt the need to throw that in there. Looking up to the northwest, it's been, like I said, it's been really solid. If you're going to the northwest, though, you definitely want to just go ahead and go to Portland, Seattle. Don't really want to stop in Idaho, despite it being above average, right, for Idaho. But as you can see, like it's still blue. So you take both of those numbers. If all you looked at was the previous number, oh wow, Idaho's in good shape, let's go there, and you didn't look at this heat map, you wouldn't understand that it's a worse market than it normally is, right? So now that you know that, it's like, okay, well now we've got to mark Idaho off the list. That's why I do both of these. Okay, you got to look at both. You got to have the full understanding in order to make the most educated decision. So there you go. Portland's going to be better than Seattle, but it's not that far of a deadhead. So you can really kind of go to either one. But the entirety of the West is looking pretty strong. So all those West Coast people, yeah, they're making some good money. Looking down at Texas, the freight is in Houston and Dallas. That's, I mean, right? That's normal. But it looks like Houston's just a little bit hotter than Dallas. Although the rates are just so bad, it really doesn't matter which way you're headed, because all you're going to do is just take a load and get the heck out. So Houston is not necessarily going to be better than Dallas. Um, do with that what you will. Looking over, so yeah, that Memphis area, it's Arkansas is technically separated, um, but that Memphis area, Little Rock area, that's where your freight's at. Not much to talk about there because it's just average. Looking over at that Atlanta market, you can see it's blue everywhere. Atlanta's only orange. That's so shocking. That's one of those areas that it should always be red. I've been mind blown for 3 months on a daily basis looking at that Atlanta market. I don't know. I don't get it. Another market that's a bit of a shock is the Chicago market. Chicago has not been hot for freight lately. Now we saw a massive boost in Illinois' numbers, right? And it looks like Chicago is where that freight is at. I guess it's being split between Chicago and kind of St. Louis. But I would personally, if I needed to go to Illinois, I would probably lean towards getting closer to Chicago rather than St. Louis. But that's just me. Looking at the Great Lakes states, so Michigan is all lit up. That's interesting. Normally, the Detroit market is not lit up for vans. It's usually the majority of the freight is on the western half. So do with that what you will. Wisconsin, it's also showing pretty much the whole state outside of the north. I mean, there's just nothing going on up there at the very, very north. So don't head that way unless you're really willing to bounce. But it's all kind of lit up. The majority of the freight's going to be on the eastern side. And then closer to Minneapolis. So that being said, as we move over to Minnesota, no surprise, the majority of the freight's right there in the Minneapolis area. North Dakota, it's really not showing much, but the majority of your freight is going to be in the northern half, with preference towards the Fargo side. Okay, so if you are going to go up there and battle the brokers up there, you've got negotiating power, but there's just not a ton of freight up there. So you got to keep that in mind. Yeah, that's the way that you want to lean. The Midwest, looking at Indiana, the majority of the freight's in the bottom half. That's normal. You got Indianapolis there. You got Cleveland or Cincinnati there, excuse me. So that's pretty typical. As far as Kentucky goes, that's certainly going to be in the top half of the state, because that's going to be closer to Louisville and Cincy as well, and Indianapolis isn't far either. Excuse me. Ohio is pretty much all lit up. A bit of a surprise because as we get towards the end of the week, it's almost always either the northern half or that northeast side is going to be where the freight's at. But it's showing to be just pretty much solid all the way across the board. But I would still lean towards that northeastern side if possible towards the end of the week. PA, the eastern half has all the freight, and the western half is just average. So this pattern has definitely it's been there every single week, and you definitely shouldn't ignore that. If you're going to head to PA at the end of the week, it's got to be the eastern half. The western side, the Pittsburgh side, always falls off as we get closer to the end of the week. Sometimes it's even blue. So if you're going to aim for Pennsylvania for the end of the week freight, got to go to the east side. And then Jersey is going to be the northern half. I mean, Jersey's so big, that's not a big deal, right? And then, yeah, that's what we've got. And that's it. That's what I do every day, as often as possible. I'm not a machine, right? I'm human, and like, I get sick or I oversleep. I mean, there's all kinds of things. I have seen this hair. I don't know if it's off my hat. I'm sorry. I know that's loud. I don't know if it's on my eye. It's been there the entire stream. It's just driven me nuts. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get it. Work harder. Good morning, Hossicle. Good morning. So okay, let's circle back to Marty's question, and he asked, "We appreciate what you do every day." Thanks, Hossicle. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys coming in, man. Truly, I do. Marty, let's circle back to Marty's question. Can you re-explain when the rates are good about driving slower? Yes. So I missed the dad joke. I'm gonna have to rewind. Here, I got you. You don't have to. You don't have to rewind. It's not good, man. But I'll do it anyway. What did the evil chicken lay? Deviled eggs. It's just not good. Anyway, so what I meant by that, when the rates are good about driving slower, almost always when the rates are good, fuel is going to be high. Like it just is what it is, right? Sometimes it's not that way, and when fuel is low, it's more fuel dependent, really, than anything. It's not necessarily. I should have explained better yesterday. It's more what the average price of fuel is doing. When the average price of fuel is high, you do not want to be you want to maximize fuel mileage. I mean, it's very simple, right? It's pretty intuitive. You want to slow down, and you want to save as much money as possible. A lot of people, when they're not keeping as much money as they could, then they speed up, and that's the opposite of what you want to do. You want to slow down and keep as much money as possible. I don't know if you guys, how long anyone's been around the channel. I know I recognize some guys or some names that I've seen since like the beginning of the channel. And I appreciate you guys, but I also appreciate you guys if you're new. Regardless, what I've done with this channel, I don't just take any sponsorship, right? I don't take any collaboration. I turn down probably 5 a day because they're just not worth it. They're not worth the time. Y'all's time is valuable, so is mine. But I also respect y'all's time just like I respect mine. So when I do a collaboration with a company, it's worth it for you guys. That's why I did. Oh no, I just drew a blank. They were sponsored. I was sponsored by them for like a year and a half. Holy cow. The app. Forget. Anyway, sorry, I forget. But like Shell, DAT, Trucker Calculator is where I was going with this. They are doing very good things, and I preached all the time about you must know your numbers. You must know your numbers as an owner operator. You have to know them. Your goal cannot be to just go out there and just make as much money as possible. The goal has to be to make as much money as possible, but also save as much money as possible and be efficient doing both. That's how you're going to maximize your money. And you cannot do that without having in-depth knowledge of your expenses and your costs, your fixed expenses as well as your variable expenses. You have to be watching those. And also, if you're watching those, and you can see, you'll start to see patterns, just like it is with the trucking market. You'll start to see patterns in your numbers, and when you get one that's just starting to spike a little bit, then you have another kind of arrow pointing to, okay, what's going on? Something's going on. What Here's what I need to look at. And you're going to fix problems sooner rather than later. Like, that's the whole point of knowing your numbers. And their software is incredible, guys. Like, truly, it's really, really good. They're working on it really, really hard. It's Yeah, I just can't say enough good things. But like, when I commit to being a partner with someone, like, there's a solid reason behind that. I don't just do the random stuff. So I highly, highly encourage you to check it out. It's free if you have one truck. Like that, like, this is just no brainer. Like, I don't know. Even if you are, even if you are keeping track of all of that and you like your software, like, I recommend you to check that out. Regardless if you have multiple trucks or just one truck, but like, give it a look, right? It's a tool. It's a tool to help you make more money and see patterns, and it's going to automate your business. Like, that's why the Walmarts of the world, I mean, it's the extreme example, but like, that's why they become successful, because they figure out ways to make everything easier and to automate things. And that is one of the best ways that you could possibly do that. So, anyway, trucker tools. Yes, thank you. Man, I'm sorry if you guys, nobody will probably see this late into a stream, but if somebody happens to, I'm so sorry. I love you guys over there. I miss you guys. But anyway, that's the stream. If Thanks for hanging around. I do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I have goals of one of these days, doing these pre-recorded. I've talked about it for a while. I'm tired of talking about it. I want to do it. Um, I'm going to make it happen on Monday. I don't. The reason I've started a couple of times, but the reason I went back to the live streams is because it's just taking too long. Well, I'm just gonna have to suck it up, and when I get the videos out, I get the videos out. So it's just gonna have to be the way that it is. So on Monday, you're getting a pre-recorded video for the trucking market update. Tuesday remains to be seen. We'll see. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope you're making all the money. Be safe out there. Keep that shiny side up. But as always, guys, stay driven. See ya.